100 Radio, New York City. As I promised earlier, Theodore is here. Good evening, Theodore, and thank you for coming up to the Outside's anniversary.
Well, happy birthday to you. I'm glad to be at the inside of the outside. You said the voice of insanity. In the elevator when I came up, I wrote a little poem for you. May I recite it to you?
Yes, I'd love to hear it.
It's very brief. In the nightmare of the dark, all the dogs of madness bark. End of the poem.
Oh,
This was a fast elevator.
I'm flattered.
Well, I've returned, Steve. More lovable and more obnoxious than ever. I shudder to think of the consequences. Good evening, Mr. Post.
Good evening, Theodore. Theodore and I, as you people know, I don't know if you'd approve of the term old friends.
You're talking to me now?
Yes, can I call you my old friend?
You may call me my old young friend. My young old friend, or whatever you please.
Those of you who are regular listeners to this program know that perhaps the only good thing we've ever done on this program was the night that Theodore came up. And we're glad to have you back. You haven't been around in some time. Don't you like me anymore?
Well, Steve, I do like you, but I hibernate all summer. In winter, I get up and change my bed sheets. Winter is probably the least obnoxious of the 4 seasons, and so I came here.
Well, nice to have you here on this chilly, cold night. You look vicious sitting over there. I mean, you look well, but you look vicious.
Yeah, I am vicious.
And it's a privilege to have you gracing the Outside's microphones on this very special of occasions. This is our...
Yeah.
Do you listen to my program regularly?
Steve, to tell you the truth, I have no television set, I have no FM set. I don't listen to anybody at all. I just bury myself in my books, and that's all.
Well, I understand you had a part in a Broadway play. Is that right?
Well, it's right and it's wrong. I got a part in the Broadway play, and I lost it. I was with the play for about 10 weeks, more than 10 weeks, and then suddenly, out of the blue, I got the axe.
Why? What happened? Did you do anything wrong?
Well, don't ask me, Steve. Ask the Lunacy Commission. I'm not at liberty to talk freely if I wanted to. A secret noodle ring in mid-Manhattan, you understand? But even if I were free to talk, still my tongue wouldn't be long enough to give you a logical explanation of what happened. The theater is a illogical world full of childish and jealous and hysterical people. My audiences, or not my audience in this case, the audiences of the play loved me dearly, of course. Audiences always love me because they can sense how dearly I love them, and even the reviewers in Philadelphia and the critics in Boston had nothing but kind words for me, and so I got fired. Without any further ado, or as I so wittily say sometimes, adulessly. Not that I greatly care. I wasn't too fond of my part anyway. I mean, I wanted to play the romantic lead. But they didn't let me. I mean, you understand. Why do you smirk?
Oh, I don't understand why they wouldn't let you play the part of the romantic
That's
lead.
right. I don't understand it either. I mean, why can I never play the hero? Can I never play Korokoko and kiss my Karakaka? Apparently not. You see, Steve, this is my problem. Why, for heaven's sake, why was I given this short, fat body, this paunchy stomach, these shapeless legs? Why was I cursed with this crooked nose, these blubber lips, these piggish eyes? Why me? Always the ghoulish ticking of my life. Failure, 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 failure. If I only knew which road to take. Last night I've talked to my Popsy and Mumsy. They don't give a damn. They are dead. They both died years before I was born. If only the earth would open and swallow me up, this would be the only solution for me.
Well, how did you feel when you got dismissed so suddenly from this play?
Well, I guess I turned white as a sheet. I was all set to puke. But thank God, I'm not the kind of a type who easily panics. Thank God I'm rather the kind of a type who knows how to keep cool in a crisis. I rushed to the telephone and dialed for a 4-letter word, and the voice on the telephone answered, "This is a recorded announcement. Thank you for keeping cool in a crisis. Today's 4-letter word is post. P-O-S-T. Isn't that something? The coincidence of it all. I mean, it is almost too good to be true. You could have knocked me off with a feather, but you were not around, and I didn't have a feather handy either. P-O-S-T was the 4-letter word. So I phoned you and said hello to you, and you asked me to come here.
And
it's amazing, isn't it?
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. I know it's amazing.
And here
leaves you rather speechless.
Speechless, completely speechless is the way it leaves me. I sense a hostility tonight. The
hostility that you sense tonight, you can sense always when you are with me. As a matter of fact, always anybody senses it, even myself. I'm a very hostile person. I've learned how to hate constructively.
Can you go into some more? I'm sure there are thousands of listeners out there who've been wanting for years to know how to hate constructively.
This cannot be taught, Steve. This is impossible. You have to feel it. I feel that hatred is probably a far stronger and far more lasting passion than love, whatever love may be. But love is something that lasts for a few moments, for a few hours, for a few days, for a few weeks. But a good, solid, red blood, primeval hatred you can count on. It will catapult you far in life.
What about those who say that hate and love are right next to each other, really?
Well, I think they are very... This is very true, just as there would be no black without a white, there would be no hatred without love, and no love without hatred. These are platitudes, and I'm sorry that you ask me these banal questions, but probably it is not because you feel banally, but you feel probably that your audiences deserve these questions and these answers, so they get them.
Now listen. I'm listening. I have to face this audience every week, I hope. You can't talk to my audience like that.
Well, you just saw that I could. I just did.
But you can't get away with it.
What are you going to do about it, huh? Well, what are you going to do about it, Steve? These are empty threats. And before you make empty threats to me, you had better know how to back them up, because otherwise it will be very embarrassing for yourself. Forgive me if I'm a little bit discourteous on your anniversary, but you said I look rather vicious, so I have to live up to your analysis of my personality.
Yeah, well, last time we were together on the station, barring the time we did the marathon together, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was very sweet last time, very delightful, very charming. Oh, I can turn it on and off. I'm a very brilliant, intelligent, far-traveled man, and I can do these things as I please. Only on WBAI I'm never greatly inspired because there's just no money in it,
But what about the love?
Which love?
The love from the audience. They love you.
The audiences I don't see, the audiences I cannot hear. The audiences, you just tell me that they are audiences. As far as I know, it's just you and this microphone and nothing else, and I'm just being fooled.
Well, how about those letters? The thousands of letters that came in last time you were on.
The thousands of letters that come in, ladies and gentlemen, if you are really there listening to us, the thousands of letters that you write in, I get about 4 or 5 months later after you wrote them, if ever. And then they are in such a state that I cannot read them because they have been lying on the floor and have been used as toilet paper or something like that. If I could get the letters promptly, I could answer them, I could phone people, I could thank them, I could be charming, I could be grateful, but I never get them. The last bunch of letters you gave me was about 7 months old, Steve.
But you've been out of town a couple of months. Do you think that I would do a thing like taking your mail and trample on it?
Not only would I think so, but not deliberately, but just because of a total disorganization here.
But that's the station, not me.
Look, you involved me in this conversation, and now you are getting defensive. I would never have been aggressive if you had not taunted me with my vicious looks, because when I looked in the mirror, last time when I was right here 5 minutes before I came here in the bathing chamber, and I looked in the mirror. I saw a very nice, suave, lovely, fine-chiseled face staring at me. It was my face. And you say, without any rhyme and without any reason, you dare to say to your guest of honor that I'm vicious.
Well,
I have a great mind to leave this place.
Well, but it's just that we've always been friends. We've always had a different relationship.
Too late to apologize. Too late to apologize. Even I am only human, you know. Really, I mean, this is well, let's, I don't want to talk this way now. Go on.
I mean, it's my...
Yeah, I know you mean.
It's my anniversary, and you should make concessions to my... you know,
what I'm doing here is concession enough, you know.
That's true.
If it were on another station, I would have done worse things than what I did. Incidentally, you know, I tried desperately to change a subject, and as you don't guide me into a proper channel how to change a subject, I'll try to become objective, or at least I'll become subjective, but not as far as you are concerned. A night or two ago, you know, I told you that I'm a terrible insomniac.
Yeah.
Now, last night, something worse happened than insomnia. I had an unbelievable dream, and in view of the fact that you always want me to babble on here on this program, and I never know what to do, because I don't like to tell stories, it's far too pedantic, and just to ramble on, you know, how I like radio, and this, I just don't feel up to it. But this might be an excellent excuse. I was alone in my apartment, fast asleep and utterly adorable as usual, when suddenly out of nowhere a voice broke the silence, a voice I'd never heard before, and it said to me in a tone of great refinement, are you listening to me? Do I get your undivided attention?
Undivided attention, yes.
Because if I don't have it, I just stop right away, you know. What was the last thing I said to you, or to the audience?
You were asleep, you were alone in your apartment, adorable, as usual.
Utterly adorable.
Utterly adorable,
yes.
As usual.
And then what? After I was utterly adorable, what happened?
Well, after you were utterly adorable, I turned around to turn off my microphone so the audience could hear you completely. This is
why I said to you, are you at all listening to me? Because it is highly irritating. There's nobody else in the room but you and I. And if you don't watch me and you don't listen to me, I have the feeling I talk into utter emptiness and nothingness. You know, I know that there are thousands of people listening, but I'm not imaginative enough to visualize it if you, the only living person here, if you don't pay any attention to me. So a voice broke the silence and said to me in what? In a tone of utter refinement, it said to me, arise, O Theodore, arise, thou controversial radio personality, get up, you punk, and visit Dr. Rühmschwein. Now, Dr. Rühmschwein, as you may or may not know, is a psychoanalyst and practices my practice in Upper and Lower Manhattan. And I went and called on him to see if by any chance he had some macaroni he could sell me. The idea was sort of far-fetched, I realized that, but what the heck? Who risketh nothing, gaineth nothing. Now, Dr. Rühmschwein had a shifty look when I arrived there. His eyes didn't focus on my face. They focused on my focus. He tried to appear casual, but his nose shook with inflated ego, and he was twisting a fried egg between his fingers and almost tore it in two. Macaronis, I said to him. You see, Doctor, I've always been terrified of macaronis. I could never find anything in common with them. They just seemed to me like people from another world, utterly inhuman. But in a strange desire for self-torment, I've always taken a morbid interest. Show me your tongue, patient, he said. I thought it odd that he wanted to see my tongue. I barely knew the man, but then you know how it is. If it's not one thing, it's always the other. I stuck out my tongue as far as I could, and he cut it off with a pair of scissors and poured a can of turpentine into my mouth. Spit out, patient, he said. Relax, gargle with glue. Oh, yes, and here are some aspirins. Take them home, patient. We are living in dangerous times. I took them home, of course, the aspirins, but they didn't go with my wallpaper, which might give you a hint what kind of a kook that Rühmschwein was. Now, if I were less honest than I am, I could embellish this dream and go on telling you all sorts of lies, but at that moment, I awoke and had to go and wash my hands, and this was the end of the dream. I hope by now you have had ample of time to figure out what other foolish questions you can ask me in order to totally annoy me. What is the next question now?
Well, I was going to ask if you have dreams like that often.
No. I said if you had listened to me, I told you that I suffer from unbelievable insomnia, but that as a great exception, 1 or 2 nights ago, I forgot now, because day becomes night, night becomes day when I have these fits of insomnia. And within this insomnia, I had this thing, pardon me if I belch every now and then. I had some awful candy before I came up here. Incidentally, you know that I'm not serious when I say all these things. I thoroughly detest everything I stand for. You know that.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Are we finished for tonight?
I wanted to ask you 1 or 2 more things.
Go ahead, bring out the worst in me.
I'm trying as hard as I possibly can.
All right.
But I don't want to touch on anything that you don't want to talk about. So maybe.
No, I'm easily enraged. You know that.
I know that.
I'm easily enraged, and you don't want to make me bellow when I want to coo.
No,
So be careful what you ask me, because nowadays practically anything and everything enrages me.
Would you prefer if let's say if I put on a record for a few minutes? And,
well, I would be delighted.
And then we could possibly discuss what we would like to discuss. I mean, I don't want to.
It's of course very, very possible, but that by then the momentum of this conversation is totally lost.
That's what I'm afraid of.
You know.
I don't want to let you near the door. I know you're dying to get out of here. And
not really, no, not really, because the night is gone now anyway, you know, and I'm here, and you have a few guests there. There's only a horrible dearth of girls. There are about 20 men and about 6 girls. It's a horrible ratio.
Well, as the night goes on, I'm certain that
they will come in.
They'll come in
more and more and more.
Especially when they hear that you're here.
You told me you were going to introduce me to a girl by the name of Judith. You didn't.
Oh, well, that's. Maybe we should talk about that while the record is on.
Why, really? There's nothing wrong. I didn't say that I have any bad intentions to introduce a girl to a man, a lovely girl to a highly cultured, civilized, intelligent, brilliant, irresistible man. It's nothing you have to get so upset about. I'm amazed at you, Steve.
That's true. If Judith is out there, will she, you know where we are? Why don't you come up here now? And shall I put out a general SOS for any lovely...
No, she's probably rolling drunk in the gutter, with the coated tongue and the bloodshot eye on a Saturday night, instead of being here and listening to me. All right.
Should I put out a general SOS for...
There is no reason for SOS. I'm not in... This is not a case of emergency on my part. It's just that I wanted to meet Judith, because you mentioned her to me. You know?
Well, she might be listening if she's out. I'm sure she'll be here.
All right. Wait a minute, I talk with a high-pitched voice. I think it's far nicer if I talk with this low, nice, warm... Would you say so?
I think so.
But when I get excited, I have this typical German thrill... the Germans, you know that.
Yeah.
I listened to, recently, when I listened to something, I don't know what it was, some very brilliant, intelligent German politicians, and yet they speak with this high-pitched, shrill voice that you almost think they are hysterical women. And they are certainly real he-men. But they, in comparison to the Anglo-Saxons, they speak with this high-pitched voice. And as I come from Germany, as you know, every now and then when I get excited, I fall back into this rather obnoxious tone of voice.
I had an experience in Germany last year with... someday I'll tell about it on the air.
You didn't even tell me that you were in Germany, did you?
Didn't I tell you last
maybe
summer
you told
me
and I didn't listen as usual.
Probably. I had a run-in with some officials of Lufthansa Airlines, which was rather interesting. It provided some interesting insights into.
If you say Lufthansa Airlines, it's redundant because it means the same. So
what does Lufthansa mean?
It means airlines, really.
Oh, well, but
that's the German word for airlines, Lufthansa.
Oh, well, that's their brand name, what have you. That's what they call themselves. And I had it provided some interesting insights into the Germany of the 1960s.
Tell me all about it.
I'll tell you about it, but not
now. Why not?
No,
Why not?
No,
these are the things that probably interest your audience more than anything else.
No, I'm sure they'd much rather hear you. I get constantly, whenever I get on the air and talk for any place more than 32 seconds, the phones start lighting up and they say, "What doesn't that idiot shut up and play some music or something?" So I've been so intimidated by this audience.
Then do play some music.
Would you like me to play some? They want to hear you.
No, but they would hear me if you talk about your experiences in 1960 in Germany, because I'm deeply involved with, my whole background is German. I went to the university at Cologne, as you know, which is in German Köln, as you also might know. So if you stimulated me by telling me about Germany, I would probably be able to make some very pertinent comments. But apparently,
well, no,
I'll
run over it briefly. What happened was myself and two companions, being my brother and my cousin, were in Europe, and we had flown Lufthansa to Germany, and we spent 3 weeks in Europe. And when we came back, we went to the airport in Köln, as you say.
Köln,
no,
yeah.
Is that where it was? Yeah, I think that's where it was. Anyway, I think that's where the airport was. And we got there and went to the desk to register, tell them we were here and ready for our flight. And lo and behold, they told my brother and myself that we were on the reserve list. We were on the waiting list, and that if a seat should become available, they'd be more than happy to accommodate us.
Yeah.
And well, to put it mildly, we were not pleased at all to hear that, because we had booked reservations. And they said something about were supposed to have confirmed our flight 24 hours in advance. Well, nobody had told us this in New York.
Well, do you mean that this was a special hostility against Americans or Jewish Americans? Or do you think that is a sloppy way of handling things?
Well, I didn't know at the time.
I can tell you only that it is one of the rarest things in Germany. As you very well know, the Germans might have many great faults, but their reliability and punctuality in mechanical things is superb. And the trains go better than the trains ever went at Mussolini's time in Italy. So I'm quite amazed, and I would like to know whether it's your opinion that there was a hostility towards you and your brother, a personal hostility.
Well, now I realize there wasn't, but at that time we didn't know exactly. We were very sensitive on the whole thing about being in Germany and having,
yes.
So what happened was we got perhaps more enraged than we should have gotten, and said a few things that we perhaps shouldn't have said.
Yeah, but undoubtedly similar things happened to you in other countries and even in this beautiful United States.
Yeah, but the fact that we were in Germany made us particularly hostile, and the fact that the man who came out to try and explain this to us couldn't have looked more like a Nazi officer if he had been one. Maybe he might very well have been one during World War II.
You mean he didn't show a real concern?
Not only did he showed no...
He was pleased that you couldn't get the seats.
It seemed that way. He showed no humanity. He was very mechanical, just as you say. He stood there with his little hat, and his suit was perfect, and he said to us, "I'm sorry, Mr. Post. These are the rules, and we can do nothing for you. If a seat comes, we'll be more than happy to accommodate you." And
well, you must remember that this happens probably thousands of times in his career, and he has memorized this little speech and pours out this little speech whenever the occasion arises. These people cannot afford to individualize and be truthfully sorry. Not that I try to excuse them, but this has nothing to do really with Germany. This is a human element.
Well, yes, but that's exactly what they lacked. What everybody around the gist of the thing is that we decided, the three of us, that we weren't going to put up with this, and we were going to make trouble if we weren't going to get a seat on that plane.
Yeah.
The plane wasn't going to take off. So we announced very dramatically to everybody assembled that we were about to go downstairs to the waiting room out by the runway, and that if we didn't have a seat by boarding time,
yes,
we were going to run out and lie down beneath the wheels of the plane, and that if they wanted to take off, they'd have to come and bodily drag us away.
Well, I do not wish to be critical, but I think that you might, in this particular case, have behaved a little bit more reprehensible than the German official did.
I think so, yeah, but we were, we were overly sensitive to the problem.
Yes, I understand.
And we were determined, because nobody had told us to confirm the flights, and it had said in tiny little print on the back of the little Lufthansa handbook.
And furthermore, I'm sure that this was not your only exclusive experience that you had in Germany. How long were you there?
Altogether about a week.
Yes, you must have had some nice experiences with very nice people,
too. Most of them were wonderful, but this particular one, upset us, shall we say. And it was the only contact we had with anybody in Germany who was at all reminiscent of the Nazi period, it seemed to us.
Yes.
And it was really a kind of a frightening experience, except, of course, there were certain other little things. But anyway, this was the one experience I had in Germany that has lingered, shall we say.
Yeah.
And
it was not convincing enough, though, for me that, it was not typically German, it was typically human.
Well, I thought it was typical non-human.
Maybe that this particular man didn't have good manners, but this is not. We can judge or misjudge or blame the Germans undoubtedly for incredibly more heinous crimes than this. This
There's nothing.
is
but
a bagatelle.
I still remember his face after we finally did get a seat, and as we were walking out to the ramp about to board, he came out and he tipped his hat to us, shook our hands, and he said he was very sorry that this whole thing had happened. He hoped that it would be, that we...
The same man?
Yeah, the same man. But still, in this very mechanical, very anti-human, I would say, very anti-human way. It was like there was a...
This is, of course, if you say that, this is a question of interpretation or misinterpretation, but because you tell me that what he said to you was very polite and right. The tone of his voice is something that you interpret or misinterpret. A judge would never give you the permission to say that it was in a nice or in an unnice tone, because this is interpretation and not a fact.
That's
you know. Forgive me that I'm today
the devil's advocate.
No, I'm the devil's advocate and very uncooperative, apparently.
Yeah, well, that's all right. I understand. I suppose I've gotten as little out of that story as I'm going to ever get out of it.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I encouraged you to tell the story. You were right. You never should have told the story, because there's no moral to the story.
No, there is no moral to this. Not if we can't agree. There's no moral to the story.
Yeah.
I'll ask you something, and you can or can't answer this. You can just say to me you'd rather not discuss it, and we'll accept that.
Right.
But it refers to your association with the Merv Griffin program, which I know has been good, and you've always told me that you've always been dealt fairly with, and you enjoy appearing on the program. I guess I should let you say all that. But
yes, what is the question?
The question was going to be, I wanted to ask you about the night you were on with Jerry Lewis, if you wanted to talk about it.
Well, this is a difficult question, because I'm reasonably sure that most of your audiences were not witnesses to this encounter, and therefore I would first have to tell what happened and then give my side of the story, which makes it very... Did you watch it?
I didn't watch it, but I know I know people who have watched it, and you described it to me, and also I've talked about Jerry Lewis on this program before. You see, this is all very difficult for me to explain, because on the one hand, Merv Griffin is very, very nice to me. He obviously and truly likes me. But when I'm on his show, I am supposed to behave the way he and his producer want me to behave, namely to be inhuman, really inhuman, not as your German officer was at the airport, but really inhuman. I remember that once I came very nicely dressed, and I was in a good mood and was very polite. And they told me afterwards, when the show was over, if I do that once more, I will never be on the show again, because they want to create the image that I'm a raving maniac, that I have to wear my turtleneck sweater, that I have to look sweaty with my hair combed down the forehead, and that I have to be exceedingly impolite to anybody and everybody, with the result that the audiences who do not know me in any other way automatically assume that I'm really the person that Merv Griffin creates. So for his show, it might be very good. It creates freak appeal and nuisance value, and he wants me to stir up trouble, you know. But for me personally, it is bad, because people don't think that I'm a performer, or let alone an intelligent performer. They simply assume that I'm a maniac, but he intends me to be a maniac. And so, when I was sitting in the dressing room, someone came down to my dressing room and said, incidentally, our guest of honor tonight for 1.5 hours is Jerry Lewis. You know, which I didn't know, and I didn't care one way or the other, because I just, as I told you, and as you very well know, I just don't pay any attention to stars. I don't know who is a star. I have, of course, heard about Jerry Lewis, but I've just heard that he's a very famous comedian. And barely had I gotten on stage when we started getting into very bad trouble. He was totally unaware of me. He had never heard of me, as most people have not, because, you know, so far I've only scratched the
the surface of show business. I'm not a star, and not even 1/10 of a star. So he thought that I would behave as all the others did, very servile to him. And I must say, and I didn't like that, the other performers that were on were very, very humble to him. They were deadly afraid of his wit, or so-called wit. And he did very strange things when singers started to sing. And these singers had, of course, as you know, long years and years, they had prepared themselves for the Merv Griffin show or similar events. And whenever they started singing, Jerry Lewis looked at them and started emitting sounds like ah, ah. And the singers, instead of getting very upset, smiled at him, went to him, figuratively licked his boots to pacify him. And after they pacified him and grinned and smirked, and salivated all over the place, Jerry Lewis let them sing their song. And so he was completely taken by surprise that a totally unknown, unimportant nobody, as I, got quickly very fresh with him. And it got totally out of hand. It really did, because you feel that when you are with a person. You feel that very clearly. It was not, on his part, a pretended rage. He was really and truly very upset, and I, too, was upset. As a matter of fact, I felt a few moments more, and we would have slapped each other's faces. But the very, very astute producer of the show saw to it that this didn't happen. He separated us so that I was 15 feet away from him. He was 15 feet away from me, logically speaking. And it was, in a way, an embarrassing experience. And relatively, I did well with him. But in an absolute sense, he, of course, won this battle of stupidity that was exchanged for a very good reason. And I don't say that in order to defend myself and attack him. But this man has memorized 10,000 ad-libs, for each and every occasion. He must have categorized it and filed it in his mind. So whatever you say, he has a good or less good answer. I remember the less good answer that really was quite ridiculous, when he, for a moment, absolutely didn't know what to answer. He said, "Look here, ladies and gentlemen, look at Theodore, his fly is open." Which I did not consider the epitome of comedy. And I told him so, and I asked him whether this is the way he made his $30-40 million. And he proudly admitted that this was indeed the way he accumulated many millions of dollars. And many letters poured in for me, against me. He has many fans. I have very few fans. If I have if I have ex-fans, he has 3,000 times ex-friends and fans, But the interesting part of it is, as you asked me, is that I very clearly felt that Merv Griffin was delighted, because I'm sure that he would have liked to say to Jerry Lewis many of the things that I said, but he, being the host, could not possibly afford to be impolite to such an important guest. While I, who has nothing to lose, I mistake my THs for the S's now, that I, who have nothing to lose, I could very well afford to be as fresh as I pleased, and I was. End of story.
Yeah. Do you often get angry at at people like that on television?
Yes, I do, because I have the feeling that, as I said before, that Merv Griffin selects me as a guest whenever he has guests that I cannot stand, namely the Borscht Circuit type comedians. And when I just see them, when they just open their mouth, their loud-mouthed, smart alecky behavior gets terribly on my nerves. And as a matter of fact, I said something which might have made me look like a Nazi myself. I said to Jerry, and I'm Jewish, as you know, I said to Jerry Lewis that his ay-ay-ay's and Jewish jokes are not always appropriate and do not amuse necessarily 100% of his audience, which also annoyed him. But this is one of those things. I have a hideous tendency, and this tendency apparently keeps me down in show business, that when the chips are down, I do speak the truth. Even before I go on, very often I make up my mind, this time I will not speak the truth. This time I will say what is diplomatic and wise and intelligent. And as I said, when the chips are down, apparently, I have a certain innate integrity, not deliberately, I'm not a goody-goody at all, but I'm almost compulsively honest, and this is apparently is very bad in show business, because show business thrives on make-believe. Right?
Yeah.
You see, your short answer questions get endless
That's
answers.
what I keep hoping for. I keep hoping that we're gonna find out.
But you realize, of course, that I say nothing else that any taxi cab driver or spray painter couldn't also say.
No, that's not true. That's not true, because those people hadn't had the
experience, no, but they have had other experiences. This is true. Yes.
Yeah, I'd love sometime to. I did, as a matter of fact, one time take a tape recorder and hook a concealed tape recorder with a concealed microphone and take it into a cab to get a conversation.
Are
with
you
the cab
permitted
driver.
to do that?
I don't know.
You
Who
cannot
cares?
put it
What
on
do
the
I
air.
care?
You
Oh yes, I would have put it.
No, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm absolutely certain that you have to get the written permission. When they had candid camera, I think they had to ask people for permission.
I go out and interview people on the street all the time about various things and never get.
Yeah, but they know that you are interviewing them with a tape recorder.
Yeah.
But if you have the tape recorder hidden, you do something that is, in my opinion, absolutely illegal.
Yeah, well, it probably is. But what happened was I got this marvelous conversation with the cab driver, saying all the things you expect a cab driver to say and more.
Yeah.
And this guy, it was around Christmas time, and it was a good time for cab drivers to get out of
And he was not
hostility.
aware that the tape recorder was running all the time?
And I'm sure he would have been glad to have said it all anyway. And what happened was that it just didn't come out.
Yeah.
But it was, but it was a whole other thing. You said that you hadn't been saying anything that any cab driver couldn't say, which isn't true. Anyway, are you going to be on the Merv Griffin program again?
Yes, apparently I'll be. It will be taped next Wednesday, but when it will be on, I never know.
So it'll probably be sometime in the week. A week.
I wouldn't
next
know.
Week.
It is.
You never can tell.
Yes, and I don't. And these shows are, as I said before, highly unintelligent for me, because I don't have I don't have a chance to talk. Everyone automatically and immediately interrupts me as soon as I open my mouth. I don't know why, but it's a fact.
It's a shame, because it's the only place that any of us, when I say us, I'm talking about the people who have never really seen you perform live, like myself, and I haven't, don't have any other place to see you except in a.
Well, as you know, many years ago, I had my concerts where I performed for 2 hours uninterruptedly, but for many, many reasons, too numerous to mention here on radio, these performances have been abandoned. I had some performances in some places where I had certainly normally would never have performed, coffee house type, nightclub type places that are absolute hell for me, because the disturbances drive me nuts, and I cannot concentrate, and do not dare to do something good, because I know that any moment something awful is going to happen.
There's no. Let me do a station break. This is WBAI, listener-sponsored radio in New York City, and you're listening to the Outside's anniversary program, and my guest live before a live microphone is Theodore, who, we don't bother to introduce people all over
Incidentally,
again.
I'm so delighted that you say Theodore. On the Merv Griffin show, they call me perpetually Brother Theodore, and I tell them all the time to forget about it. I tell you why it's so embarrassing, because people all over the country take that very seriously. When they see me in this black turtleneck sweater, so people come to me and say, for instance, and this is the entire truth. This is not a joke. This is not a memorized joke. This is the truth. I was on 57th Street in some little bookstore, browsing through the books, and a very nice, well-dressed couple approached me, and she said, "Oh, my God, what a pleasant surprise. Reverend Leopold, the mystic on the Merv Griffin show." Because brother, so instead of brother, it's Reverend Leopold, and others call me Father Frederick, or Monsignor Christopher, and things like that. It's very embarrassing, but I just, there's nothing I can do about it. I say, Murph, please call me Theodore, because this is my name. If you want to call me Ted, but he goes on with Brother Theodore in order to create this image of madness.
Well,
but I like the man, and I love him, and he's very, very, very well-intentioned, and he is the only one in the commercial field right now, the only producer who makes use of me. Yeah. Everybody else shies away from me.
There, I don't want to get back into all the questions we asked in the program we did originally, which I'm going to play much later on tonight, because I know everybody wants to hear it again. But are there any prospects, anything that looks...
No, not really. There are vague prospects that are really not bona fide prospects. There are always certain people in the field, in the profession, interested in me. There are right now 2 men interested in managing me. They seem very nice, they seem very intelligent, they seem very successful, but number one, I don't know whether it will ever come, whether the deal will ever be consummated, and number 2, I don't know whether when the deal is consummated it wouldn't be the worst thing that can happen to me. These things you don't know now. Now everybody loves everybody, but after you have been signed up for, let us say, 6 years, and feel you cannot get rid of people whom you don't like by then anymore, that's a different story. But they are both very, very nice people, highly intelligent people. One I have known for many, many years, and I could not imagine that he would in any way do anything wrong. And the other fellow seems to be equally nice, but I don't know that because I hardly know him. I've met him only 5 or 6 times so far. And it is conceivable that if they really take a constant interest in me, not just a 2 or 3 weeks interest, that they might get me into movies, which I so richly deserve. Horror films,
You've been in movies. Somebody called me last week and said, right in the middle of the program, and said, I just saw Theodore in a movie.
Yes, this is of course a euphemism, because this was I barely remember that people phoned me also and said, do you know that you are in a movie? And I honestly and truly did not remember what they were talking about, because I did that long ago, and it was a very brief little thing that was shot in Hollywood, a D picture or a K picture and a Z picture preferably. It was done in 2 or 3 hours, You know whether what 2 or 3 hours in a movie mean? Nothing, because a normal picture is done in 3 or 4 months or 2 or 3 years, I say, again, perpetually, you know, and we cannot cut it out because this is live. Isn't it awful?
No. I do it all the time,
You say it all the time?
I do it all the time, I do it.
You just did it.
Yeah. People always said that long before.
It's very amazing how you can have these mannerisms for years and years, and none of your friends warns you until you hear it yourself,
right,
and then you are very embarrassed.
For years, and then suddenly I find myself on radio and I listen to myself.
It becomes very monotonous.
Yeah, and there I am doing it, and you can do it. You can tell me about it, and I can turn around and do it in the next sentence and not know that I did it.
I know.
And I'm making a conscious effort now not to do it.
Yes.
As they say. Well, I'd love to keep talking all night, but I see
Okay, Steve. Good night.
Well, good night. All right. Well, I want to tell the people out there though that let's see how I can put this. That I coerced Theodore into coming up here tonight, and how I did it, and it's.
I don't know what you were to say. You promised me the car fare, the subway fare. You promised me 40 cents, 20 cents to come, and 20 cents to go back.
No, I didn't. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's still 10 cents for a subway token.
Oh no!
There's somebody out there waiting for
20
you.
Cents.
Someone out there waiting for you with 20 cents. That'll have to do.
Oh,
After I hadn't spoken to Theodore for a couple of months, he'd been out of town. I called him up and I said, Theodore, my friend, my old friend, I haven't seen you in such a long time. I'd really love to get together. Why don't you come over to my house for dinner? And he said, oh, I'd love to. So, well, he wasn't that expressive about it. But anyway, he said, okay, I'll be happy to grace your your living quarters with my presence. So, no, that's not really what happened. He said he'd love to come over for dinner. And he did, and we spoke the whole night. We talked.
The suspense is almost killing me. Yeah. What are you working up to?
I'm leading up to a station break.
I see.
But finally, at the end of the evening, after all these hours of conversation, food, and plying him with all kinds of things, raspberries and exotic...
but no soup.
No soup, right. I said to him, say, Theodore, I'm having my anniversary program this Saturday night. All I want you to do is a minute or two for me, and at the least. And he said, oh, I knew there was some reason. I knew. And it was true. I bought Theodore with a dinner. And he came up here tonight and called off an early Sunday appointment to come up and be with us. And I can't tell him how much I appreciate it. And I hope he'll, despite the fact that I've probably put him on the spot, I hope he'll consent to come back again for my second anniversary or even before.
Oh, I will.
And good luck from us all.
Thank you. Good luck.
I don't want to see you leave, but I see you taking off your glasses. I shouldn't.
I'm not necessarily going to leave. I hope I can get a Coke or something.
Yeah, we have
this cold water. Or
no, we have
coffee.
We have soda and party goods and cookies and pretzels and things.
Yeah, but what about Judith now?
What about Judith? Judith, where are you? Has Judith come in yet? No, Judith hasn't come in yet. I'm very disappointed. Are there any other beautiful women in the back? I mean, certainly Theodore wants to meet Judith. It'll be Judith.
I want to meet Judith. But probably it's good if I don't meet her, because if I see her, she might disappoint me, no? And
no, I don't.
You know, the philosopher says there are only two terrible, what does one call that, losses in life. One, not to get what you want, which fills you with frustration, or to get what you want, which fills you with disgust and satiation.
And on that philosophic note, we thank Theodore, and we'll bid him at least an on-the-air good night.
Good night.